Data privacy brings to mind a conversation I had with Nandan Nilekani some time ago when Aadhaar was first launched, and it faced a barrage of opposition from those who feared giving up their data. And I remember Nandan's counter question was, you don't mind that someone in California has access to all your data. He meant Google. But you're worried when someone in India has some data at all. So now the worry is about the companies which are sitting in different parts of the globe who are constantly monitoring us. I'm sure my phone is taking charge of everything. You must have realized it yourself. You're just talking about somebody random, and next thing you know, it says, might, suggest friend in Facebook. My Adobe, for example. Yeah. So the thing is, the ones who are sitting on data are the new imperialists. How do we fight this new imperialism? And do we need to fight? Siddharth?
It's an interesting question, the importance of which probably escapes the grasp of most people other than who've been branded recently neoliberals, right? And it is this, that on the average day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Scott McNealy once famously said, Scott McNealy is the founder of Sun Microsystems. He said, privacy is over, get over it. He stood there on a bully pulpit and said it like 20 years ago. Right? And it's not that everything is known to everybody, that's the problem. It is when one of us, because of something that we said or did, suddenly gets us branded anti-national, right? And thrown into prison with no defenses. Yeah. So it's interesting that a modern, functioning, democratic, or whatever other nation you have, relies on a framework, a system of checks and balances that makes privacy less important or more important, right? If, for example, one lived in a system where the power of the individual was very strongly protected by its institutions, then privacy becomes a matter of personal preference, that I really don't want my sexual orientation, blah, 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 to be known to everybody. Right? But here privacy has a more fundamental importance, that whether I might, for a variety of reasons, be a target of malevolent intent, whether they're the instruments of government or not. And in an institutional framework that is constantly under the threat of coming apart, I'd almost argue that India, where privacy is almost unimportant historically and traditionally, perhaps should be the most important thing that we watch out for. Right? So I made the case, I think, for privacy, because we have no protection. However, can tools help us, protect privacy? I think that's a very future-oriented question, simply because right now those frameworks don't exist. So we start talking about things like blockchain, where so imagine a world where all our publicly published information is in fact not publicly published, but only available on a permission basis for particular needs to particularly permissioned entities, and is otherwise super secure, right? Is it technically possible today? Yes, absolutely, right? And can even be implemented at not very high cost. Yeah, and it will, but it needs a legal framework for all that collected information that's harvested every minute and every second to go through a pipeline to people who are permissioned to get it. So, in other words, yes, can happen. How it will happen is, unfortunately, again back to the policy level, when our rulers deem it important enough in the short and the long and the medium term to set off a set of things that will lead to such an outcome, right? And in small measure, I think we hear, like for example, Nandan himself in his India stack has this, digital locker. Could, for example, a higher version of the digital locker that is that has some form of publicly managed encryption be that custodian of all our data? Maybe. I'm saying that ideas exist, right? And so, in summary, yes, privacy is super important, more and more so when individual liberty is at stake, and the mechanisms for it are starting, strong mechanisms for it are starting to develop, and in due course, perhaps if everybody agrees, that they will be publicly deployed to protect us. So there you go.